Welcome to the Good Neighbors of Texas podcast, the place where local businesses and neighbors come together. I'm your host, Ron Holt. Welcome to episode number 6 of the Good Neighbors of Texas podcast. We have Joe Cox with Cox Irrigation with us today. It's good to have you here, Joe.
Hey, Ron. Thanks for having me this morning.
Great. Tell us about your business, Joe.
Well, we are family-owned and operated. We say that we are a family company. Even those who work for the company who are not blood-related, they're still family to us.
That's great.
And we treat it as such. And we specialize in lawn sprinkler installation, repair, backflow testing, and basically just try to keep everybody's lawns up and happy, as the ad says, to make your lawn smile.
You do that really well, too.
Thank you.
Well, tell our listeners about your journey. What got you into this business in the first place?
Oh, man, that's a long journey. So I bounced around from job to job. Always wanted to work for myself. Tried a few times to start a business when I was younger.
Mm-hmm.
Didn't really know what I was doing and learned some valuable lessons when those businesses failed.
Mm-hmm.
I kind of got into doing the hydroponic and aquaponics and all that. And I had a small little side business where I was selling basil and things to certain businesses here in town.
Mm-hmm.
I found an opening for an irrigation company, needed some help here in town. So I began to work for them and found that I was good at it. And after a few years, things with that company and I just didn't work out. So I took the opportunity to branch out on my own and haven't looked back. So I've been in business now 6 years.
6 years. Wow.
Yeah, 6 years, and we've grown quite a bit. We were fairly busy the first year because I guess people knew me and recognized me from previous. And just word of mouth, it began to spread, and here we are.
That's awesome. Can you tell our listeners about any myths or misconceptions that you hear about your service in general?
Yeah, one of the big ones, in reference to installations, I hear people say all the time, well, how hard can it be? It's just putting pipe in the ground. Get water from here to there. There's a whole lot more to it. Pipe sizing, flow rates. I can get real technical, but that's just going to bore everybody. But there's a lot that goes into it to make sure that these systems run optimally and efficiently, which kind of leads into the second myth of having so many sprinkler heads running for so long amount of a time, depending on the size of the yard, that it uses excessive amounts of water. Well, the truth is, in comparison to the old-fashioned sprinklers that you hook to your hose and drag it around, it's actually way more efficient. What if you forget to turn that thing off and it runs overnight, for example?
That happens a lot, doesn't it?
It does. So whenever it's controlled and set properly, and everything's adjusted for the right conditions, it's actually fairly water efficient in comparison to other options out there. So those are the two big ones you hear.
When you're working with customers, homeowners, and after you finish a job, what are some things that they say? What's their experience after having you work on their lawn?
A big one is they're so thankful they don't have to drag that water hose around no more.
Saving time, right?
Time, yeah. What's time worth, right?
Time and money.
Yeah. So that's a big thing that people really seem to appreciate.
Yeah. And also, I guess the big benefit is a beautiful green lawn.
Oh, yeah. I mean, who doesn't like that?
And who doesn't like that? What do you do for fun, Joe?
For fun, well, don't really have a whole lot of time for fun lately. I spend a lot of time in the gym. I like to work out. I like to practice Krav Maga, which is...
Say that again.
Krav Maga. Krav Maga. It's Hebrew. It means close combat. It's basically the martial arts style of the Israeli Defense Force.
Wow.
Of course, here we do a civilianized version of that. I haven't trained that as much as I would like lately. I'm actually trying to get an instructor cert so I can teach that here in Bastrop.
That'd be great.
Because otherwise you got to go to Austin. And another thing I wish I had more time to do that hopefully I can get back to it is I need to be fishing more.
Fishing, yeah.
It's been a long time since I had to spend time fishing and get out on the rivers, and just life happens and we get busy, and I don't even know if I know how anymore, it seems like.
What do you like to fish for when you go out fishing?
I like to bass fish. Bass is fun. Topwater is exciting.
That's great. Where do you go out here when you do that?
There's the $1 million question.
It's your secret.
It's the secret. Can't tell everybody everything now.
Everybody become the same fishing hole, right?
That's right.
That's great, Joe. We were talking earlier about some life challenges. I thought that would be a really interesting story. The question is, describe one hardship or life challenge that you rose above and can now say because of that challenge, you're better for it or stronger because of it.
I would say the Bastrop fires.
Wow.
And I tell people all the time, that was really the biggest blessing of my life. We were to come through that, and we got us a new property on the other side of Bastrop County from where that was. But we were really some of the first ones evacuated and some of the first ones burned. We lived at Longhorn Drive, and the fire started on Charlotte right behind us.
Yeah.
So we were right there at ground zero.
So you had the home there, and it was completely
gone.
Gone.
Got out, 6-pack of beer and 2 guitars. And the dogs and the wife and the kids, and that was it. Everything else burned to the ground.
Burned to the ground.
But it was a blessing overall.
So what came out of that experience? You lost everything. It forced you into something new, right?
Well, it just put us into a better opportunity, a better position. I was actually working for a company out of Austin at the time, and I was laid off. The house we bought was already out of our price range. There was no way we should have been able to get into that home, but we did. So now that I'm laid off, I'm fearing foreclosure.
Wow, laid off over your head now, too.
Yeah, laid off and over my head and just sinking. And my son and my daughter were both basically babies at the time. And so they were sharing a bedroom, but something was going to have to give. They're going to grow up and not share that room forever. So I had to find a way to do an addition to the house on top of that. And it was just getting to be a big problem. And I remember mowing the grass one day, and I was thinking, like, why am I mowing this grass to make this yard pretty for someone else to enjoy?
Yeah.
Then I caught myself. I said, no. I said, God, you gave it to us. Only you can take it away.
Yeah.
A week later, fire wiped it all out.
Wow.
Week later. And of course, we had good insurance on the house and everything. So we got out of that debt and we got into a newer property. It's been a work in progress where we're at now. I've had to do a lot of work on that home too, but more acreage, more room.
More manageable,
yeah. And just allowed me to not have that financial stress. Now, things weren't perfect, don't get me wrong. Things are never really perfect, I don't think.
That's right.
But it strengthens your faith a lot. If you were weak in the faith, then it'll make you either stronger or push you away one, and it just made us stronger.
That's tremendous. What's one thing you wish our listeners knew about your business? What's the heartbeat of your business?
Well, I would say the fact that I built this business by treating people right. And I intend on having this business here in this county for the foreseeable future. And I know there's no way that can happen unless you treat people right.
Yeah. So
that's really been the basic business model that we've had. That's why I say we're a family company. Even those that work for us that are not related, they are family.
Yeah.
And we treat our customers as such. A lot of my customers, we become good friends. In fact, when I was in the field myself all the time, I used to say that I became friends with all my customers. Unfortunately, now it's gotten to the point where I don't get to meet some of them. And that's unfortunate. Sometimes when I have time, I will just pop in on the jobs just to introduce myself and keep that personal connection going. But I guess you could say that small town, friendly, we are neighbors kind of a atmosphere. We're friends kind of a setting. That's really the one thing that I really pushed hard to build with this company. Building trust. Yep. Relationships. I don't want to work for somebody one time. I want to work for someone over the long haul and build that friendship. That's wonderful. What would you say differentiates you from others in the same line of work? I would say 2 things. I would say one would be we are blessed with a crew. We have 9 employees, and every one of them has the same attitude about the company and how we treat our customers as I do. That is rare. Yeah. And I could attest to that, by the way. They worked on our place and before we ever started doing this, right? Right. Yeah,
and
we did.
I love the way they work, and they really take ownership. They're not just employees. They
Right.
really have an ownership mindset.
Right. And it seems
that.
the more responsibility I put on them, the more they just rise to the occasion.
Yeah.
Whereas some people can, push back on that or push away.
Hmm.
So number one is I'm blessed with having some of the best, absolute best personnel you can get a hold of.
Mm-hmm.
And hopefully they stick with me for the duration. And I'll say number two is the fact that all of our irrigators are licensed. All of our leads on the job, the helpers not necessarily, but the leads on the job, they're all licensed with the same license I carry.
Yeah.
We have a licensed backflow tester, trying to get a couple more of our employees licensed to test backflows, which is a very important thing. By the way, it is a state requirement and an aqua requirement, and actually most water departments require it.
Really?
And it's a safety thing. So it's an important thing to
Now,
have.
You say it's a safety thing. In what way is it?
It's a safety thing in the sense that if you were to apply, let's say, herbicides or pesticides or fertilizer even or something like that on your lawn, and let's say you have a sprinkler head in a low area that maybe your sprinklers just ran or it rained, and there's water covering that sprinkler head, and the water district is cutting into the main line to do a repair or what have you, and they end up creating a back siphon situation. Now you have the potential to take whatever chemicals in that lawn and back siphon it into the public drinking water.
Oh my goodness, really?
Yeah, it's a scary thing.
I never knew that.
Yeah, and all those who are getting letters from Aqua right now and they're getting upset, well, that's the reason why Aqua is trying to make sure that their drinking water is safe for public consumption.
Wow.
Yeah, that's a big thing.
Wow. So every lawn or every household should have a backflow test.
Every irrigation system. If you have an irrigation system, you should have a backflow, and it should be tested yearly.
Yearly. Okay. Wow. That's good to know.
Mm-hmm.
Well, it's a pleasure talking to you, Joe.
Yeah, Ron, thanks. It was fun.
Tell our listeners how they can learn more about what you're doing, contact you, or stop by your company. How can they reach out?
Well, they can always go to our website, which is bastropsprinkler.com. We do have a Facebook page and now recently launched Instagram.
Great.
My daughter's helping me on that, get the kids involved with the social media.
That's great.
Or you can always shoot us an email at jcoxirrigation@gmail.com, or even better yet, I prefer the phone call, 512-229-8078, and Jamie will take care of you.
She does a good job. Well, thank you again, Joe. It's been a pleasure.
Yes, sir, Ron. Thank you, sir.
Thank you for listening to the Good Neighbors of Texas podcast. To nominate your favorite local business to be featured on the show, go to goodneighborsoftexas.com. That is goodneighborsoftexas.com. We look forward to connecting good people with great businesses.